Well, welcome around the work stand. I have my friend David back with me today. David, how you been?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Well, good. Well, thanks for coming back and hanging out. It's interesting. We've had you on before recently, and we talked about the newly begun digital advisor services program that you've not only you've kind of built it and you're selling it and learning a lot, I think, as it goes along. And it seems like as we've enrolled more merchants in that program, I'm seeing some interesting tidbits of data come back out because historically, as a company, we really haven't gotten into across the line of in the store as much as we spent time with e-commerce. But the work we do with websites and marketing affects and is focused on in-store work as much as it is e-commerce, and that's what people forget. But you've come up with some interesting topics that you talk to merchants about, and that's what I wanted to cover today, if that's okay with you.
Of course, yeah, great.
And I think as a recap, and if you're wondering, should you continue to listen to this episode, we're talking about things like how to curate a product assortment. You know, how do you know what to buy? And a couple of tips on places to look, to think about how you might want to buy things and why you might want to buy those products. So things like listening to, and by the way, some of this stuff's going to seem incredibly obvious, but it comes up enough that I don't think it's obvious, or at least maybe people get in the weeds of running a business every day and perhaps don't always remember to think about these things. But it's topics like listening to the customers, listening to staff and community, and filtering out the important things, questions they're asking about product that gives you some tips and guidance on what kind of products to stock. It's things like thinking about the categories that matter as a business, and then what types of products or support around those you can do. So, for instance, if you're a heavy mountain bike store, there's specific ideas to think about around mountain bikes. And then also, we talk about buying a lot. I'm a buyer. I do my buying. I do this. I do that. Buying's important, but sell-through is more important. So I think those are some big topics to think about. And then we got a bonus topic at the end we're going to talk about. So hang around because we're going to certainly cover that bonus topic that I think is quite interesting. Shall we start?
We shall, yeah. Let's do it.
So at the top of that list under, how do we curate the buying is the customers and staff and community, the resources that every store has, and listening to them, right?
Yeah, and part of that is also your own culture too, and what you want to show your customers. What you're, are you coastal? Are you inland? Where are you at? What your store location is at, but yeah, talking to your customers, seeing what they're writing, what they like, what they have, what they want to buy, and also your staff as well. Your staff, sometimes you want to take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes the staff wants everything. They want all the bells and whistles, but really you got to really concentrate on what's actually going to sell. But tires is a good example for staff because it's a lot easier for staff to sell things that they actually ride. Mm-hmm. And if they know a tire that works well in your area, let's say on a mountain, a certain trail, then it's easy for them to sell, and it makes it easy for them to sell. So why not? They'll sell more of it, right? But if you don't have what they like, it's kind of an awkward conversation with that, with your customers when they're like, "What do you ride?" "Oh, well, we don't have them here, but I ride this," and it just makes it difficult. So
yeah, and use that information. You got to be a little thoughtful about it. So if they like tire XYZ. Stock that tire for all the reasons you just said, but also think about what are the other options that you have that meet the same criteria of that tire or helmet or whatever, so that you've got some options, but using that as a basis for, well, they like this tire and here's the reasons, and talk to the staff about not just I like this tire and I ride it, but why do you like that tire, and be able to articulate it, and then build products around that support those same features.
And you can have fun with that too. You can, create a section of staff picks, right? Or get a little sticker that says staff pick on it and paste it onto the packaging of that one item. And also on your website as well, create a staff picks section on your website, a little carousel of what you guys, ride, what you guys use, and what you guys love to sell. It creates a little, extra SEO content for your site. Which is nice.
Staff picks are always great. They're great for their own landing page or to put into different landing pages on the site. So that's exciting. And then you also think about, and this could be a touchy subject sometimes because inventory dollars are not always plentiful, but you have a good thing that comes up around ancillary products. Talk about that. You had a good example about rental bikes and what you might add to the mix that's not technically a bike product, but certainly supports the sale of a product or the rental in this case.
Yeah, I mean, so when it comes to rentals, where are people riding these rental bikes that you have, right? Are they going to the beach? Are they going, across town? So you could think of, things like just bottles of water, little drinks, maybe beach towels, sunscreen, those type of items that you could also stock in your store that could add some extra revenue, and just a better experience for your customers. They don't have to go, somewhere else to get, the sunscreen or get a beach towel they forgot, or maybe some sunglasses. Tifosi has a great option of, of less expensive, just, sunglasses that are great options for your customers, and they're fun. So,
yeah, and that's a smaller commitment too. I think when you say that, sometimes people think, oh, the bike cafe or the tap room or those are big commitments. These are smaller commitments that really do support a business activity, right?
Yeah, right. And again, just the overall experience. Like if you want to just give away, small balls of water with rental bikes, instead of putting, instead of expecting the customer to have a water bottle in the cages on the bike and stuff, just get a free water bottle from, packed from Costco and just, throw it in, and they'll love it, and they'll write reviews on it, and it'll be a good experience for your customers.
Yeah. And all that's kind of similar in the vein of supporting existing products. But the next important bullet point is curating your inventory specifically around the categories that mean the most to the business. Right. So how do you look at that as, say, I'm a mountain bike store? How do you look at that kind of setup?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a mountain bike store, and again, this seems very obvious, but sometimes it's not. And I've had a lot of conversations with stores with my service and without my service, and I question them on their product assortment. And so for mountain bike stores, obviously have the gloves, have the pads, the full face helmets, or helmets that are more mountain bike specific. A good range of tires, things like that. Mm. And then, going, like if you're a roadie store, if you have, a lot of road bikes, then you have, like the new thing now is like the handlebar bags, right? Or the frame bags. Nutrition's big with roadies, wheels, different tire sizes and tire options. But yeah, just think of like what we need to sell this bike and what you need with it. Also in the same realm for e-bikes. For e-bikes, we're selling fun, right? E-bikes are a lot of fun. It's hard to, it's not very often you go for a test ride on an e-bike and that customer doesn't have a smile on their face, right? They come back and they're like, this is a lot of fun. It's crazy how easy it is, right? You're selling that fun. So have things to make it more fun, right? Such as, bells and baskets, colorful assortments. We could do, kind of fun, horns, that might be the shape of a hamburger or a cactus or a squirrel or something like that. A phone mounts are a big thing. Customers want to have their phone on them because they want to see it right there. They want to have, in case there's a phone call, or see directions. Those are the kind of accessories that you want to sell and have in your store ready, available for that customer to buy, and leave with a good experience, a good product. And as soon as they leave their store, they're ready to go. There's no, I got to buy this on Amazon, or I got to go over here and buy this, and go buy this phone mount at Best Buy. Have all those things ready to go, and in stock. So.
Yeah, and I think there's two things I want to back up here. So certainly this does seem obvious, but I think where the plot gets lost sometimes is you're primarily a roadie store, and e-bikes come along, and your mindset for years has been buying and selling accessories for road bikes. And the new category, or the category that's the second or third category focus in the store, doesn't get that attention. So I think the point here is stop and think, we're selling this stuff. Do we have everything we need to maximize the ticket on each of these sales and to make the customer as happy as possible? So that's important. And the other big thing is that it's just easy to lose track of these things. And we're telling our staff, add-on sales, add-on sales, add-on sales. But have we really thought through and trained them on not just how to sell the add-ons, but how to look at this particular sale and say, okay, they bought this bike, it's this color, it benefits from these accessories. Do we have those accessories? And we really taught them how to sell the fun. Like you said, it's not really selling a basket and a phone holder. It's selling the experience of being on the bike. So I think those things all come together, and that's the part that's maybe not so obvious.
Yeah, and don't sell with your own wallet, right? You want to sell with the value of this item that it brings. So what I mean by that is, for me, and for a lot of people, a lock it could be really expensive, right? And a lock can range anywhere between $20 to $200. I wouldn't pay $200 for a lock necessarily myself, right? But don't think of, wow, it's really expensive. Think of the value that it brings, and you'll sell those locks, right? If you show, hey, your bike is worth $5,000, it's a nice e-bike. You want to have a nice lock with it. You don't want to have this, this cheaper lock that can be cut through pretty easily. And sell those accessories and sell it. You got to kind of show the customer why it's expensive and why what it does compared to this other lock.
That goes back to what you were talking about. If we go back to the staff thing, sometimes the staff just doesn't ride that category, and so that's why it's extra important to talk about what's the value of this thing that we're selling and why are we selling it? Because they may not be an e-tricycle rider like this customer is, but if you know the value of these accessories, that's another way to sell it versus I happen to like this thing myself. And certainly I love that. I love the advice of let's not shop with our own wallets, because what's important to us as a consumer may not be what's important to the actual consumer in the store. And that's the need we're trying to satisfy.
Yeah. And another good tip too is if you have, morning huddles, morning meetings with your staff, have one staff member sell the rest of the staff a product, whether it be a lock or a computer or a phone mount. Have them sell it to you and show you guys the benefits and the features of that product, so everyone can learn and understand, why this is, better, or why this is their pick of their product. So
yeah, they'll hate you for that, but it is a good exercise, and it's the do the walk around for your colleagues. Right. That's a good way to do that. Okay, so this next topic, I really want to dig into this with you, because back in my car business days, when we were trading cars in, we used to always talk about, a profit on a used vehicle is made when you buy the vehicle, not when you sell the vehicle. So buying's important, but you still got to get it sold, what we call sell through, right? So how do you advise people on that, and what are your big tips and advice for that?
Yeah, sell through obviously not obviously, but is more important than the actual buying part of it. And we want to make sure that the products we buy in the store sell through and sell well, with turns and with good turns. So really, just monitor your aged inventory. Make sure that you have a plan for marking down items, whether it be, hey, we're going to do markdowns at 20% first, and then we're going to do 30%, and then we'll do half off. One of the things we did back in the day was we wouldn't buy anything unless we knew, hey, we wouldn't buy anything that I couldn't sell at half off. If I can't sell this item at half off, then it's not even in the conversation. Like I don't even want it. But if it was kind of a risky thing, you're like, I don't know, we'll see if it sells, and don't go too deep. Just buy one or two and see what happens. And maybe you'll have to mark it down, but it'll be a good learning opportunity for your staff. So again, look, manage your aged inventory. There's a lot of tools in Ascend and Lightspeed for that, and really just and also take notes of what's happening and what's ordering, what's selling. Especially when it comes to preseason time, don't go down the rabbit hole of buying more black shorts than we need, right? Don't go through all these brands of black shorts. You only need one or two brands of black shorts. You don't need 3 or 4 or 5, and just create notes and see what sells, what doesn't sell. What gloves. Obviously, the sizes are pretty easy, but colors could be a challenge with different color options.
So that idea of don't buy something you can't sell at half off and get out of takes away some of the worry of what if I have to discount it? Because by and large, you're going to, at some point, there'll be some things that just sell and they just sell. But if you're always buying with the mindset of worst case scenario, I'm out of this thing, then that's the right way to approach that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also, look at your floor space as well. You want to make sure that you can fit all these items that you're buying on your floor, in a good, presentable manner. Don't overbuy where you have to really, put some lights here and lights on the side or lights over there, and, keep your backstock low, keep your floor plan stocked well, and have a spot for everything. And really, when it comes to brand or categories like lights and locks, you really only need 1 or 2 brands. You don't need this one light that, again, you don't want to make it confusing for your staff to sell. Make a really curated list of lights.
The paralysis by analysis. We don't want to create a situation on the floor where there's 9 different lights and the customer just can't decide.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, you're good, better, best in lights, good, better, best, maybe in locks per se, in different categories of locks. Maybe you have your cable locks and your Bordeaux looking locks, if you will. But yeah, just make it so it's easy to sell, easy for customers to buy from, and let Supplier Sync on your website, dictate what people buy on your website. You have a lot of variation there, which is fine. They'll pick and choose what they want to buy. So, but in your store, it should be really curated to what kind of bikes you're selling and what kind of product you want to sell. So.
And if there's a work stand related pro tip there, it is Supplier Sync. Let that be the part that expands the inventory, but pay attention to it. So if you have that lock that you've picked your 2 or 3, but there's this one that keeps selling because it's showing up because of Supplier Sync, then next time you start the buy, consider that lock for stocking in the store, and you've let the data tell you what's going on instead of guessing.
Yeah, right.
I want to ask something about, because you mentioned about little backstock. Are there's other reasons to maintain less backstock? I mean, the one I can think of is just risk. There's just risk in holding inventory. But what else? Why else do you want to keep low backstock?
Risk is a big one, and another big one too that we don't get talked about too much because it's kind of scary to think about, which is definitely happens, is employee theft. Right, employee theft happens. It's a thing in the bike shop and in the bike industry and in retail. And the more backstock you have, the easier it is for things to start crawling away and putting in backpacks and just disappearing all of a sudden. So the less backstock we have, the less things get hidden, get forgotten about. I didn't know we had that, and all of a sudden it's there and it's 2 years old and in a box somewhere in the back. So
all size stores, but especially in a larger operation where there's maybe a buyer and then there's somebody else that's in the sales team and they're not all connected, it's easy to forget what's down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, as we get busy, restocking becomes a little bit more challenging because, you don't have that person to restock the floor with all these different, different categories. So, it just makes it a little cleaner, a little easier to inventory as well when you're doing your cycle counts throughout the year. You're only looking in one spot, which is the sales floor. So
how do you balance that though when, part of buying for, if we're buying for opportunity and we're buying things we can sell at half off, do you take the good deal when it comes along? How do you advise people on, this deal comes along and it's going to create this situation where we've got way more of this now than we might want, but where's the balance there?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a good deal, take it and run with it, and just make sure that it's in a good spot where everyone knows where it's at. Our inventory is accurate. We look at it consistently. Our floor is stocked with the item. It's not, we don't forget about it. But really, again, just put it in a spot where it's not going to be forgotten. Yeah. So.
Well, I think too is what we've been talking about, that you kind of glossed over it a bit, but it's important. What fits on the hook? What can I merchandise well? So it's not a matter of just having it on the floor. You got to have it on a floor in a way that's appealing, because maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, the bike shop buyer in that experience was completely different and disconnected from the rest of the consumerism that goes on, but that's not the case anymore. And so as you think about that, the reason I like that tip is you're merchandising to compete with the Apple Store and Best Buy and Home Depot, and it has to be well merchandised. So I think that's an important thing that I do see. A lot of older stores or stores that have had the same plan for a long time forget that, and they will just kind of stack some stuff out there, and that's really not the way to approach it.
Yeah, and again, we're selling fun accessories, fun items, and it's okay, to have things that you probably won't sell. Let's say, a pink bottle cage, right? It's okay to have 2 of those on your floor to make the display look good and I'll show all the options and all the colors. But do you need 6? No, you probably don't need 6. You probably just need 2 fit on a hook, nice and neat. Looks good, it looks clean, and you have a nice presentable, display on your sales floor. Yeah. But yeah, just buy a little, and you probably need 10 black ones, right? Because you might sell, 6 in a weekend or something like that. And it's okay to have backstock in black, but again, we're selecting the things that we got to have in the back. So
yeah, I have a friend, and hopefully he listens, but one of the issues or conditions he had was he loved bar tape. In his store, he'd have every single color in the world of bar tape from 4 different brands because he just liked colorful bar tape. And every few years, he'd realize he'd have 35 or 40 packs of funky color bar tape in the back that he couldn't sell. So don't be him. I won't use his real name. Don't be him. Be a little more thoughtful than that.
Yeah. And bar tape's hard because it doesn't display well, right? I mean, you can't see the colors.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at that display, I just see black boxes or white boxes, whatever it may be. I can't see the color. So it's a little bit more challenging to show for sure, unless you can, pivot the box that's a little more parallel with yourself, that you can kind of maybe see the outside of it. But
it's a tough one. He did it with more than bar tape. That's just my favorite example because I like wrapping bar tape. So we went well together because I like wrapping road bars. That's a therapeutic thing for me.
Wow.
All right. So big things. Listen to you got good resources in your staff and the people you sell bikes to and interact with in the community. Use that information as good data points to think about how you stock and what you bring into the store. Focus on those categories and make sure that if mountain bike is a big category for you, that you've really thought through the stocking plan for products that support that, so that primarily so the mountain bike customer has a better experience, but also because that's a better way to upsell and add on sales. And I think my input to that is also make sure you're training your staff on not just how to sell or that they need to sell add-ons, but what that brings to the equation as far as fun and enjoyment, because that's what's really important. And then buying's important, but sell-through is more important. So make sure you're really monitoring what's going on in the store with your aged inventory, what's moving and what's not moving. And then think about that when you're buying. And I love that tip of don't buy anything you can't sell at half off and feel good about that.
Can I add two more bits of tips there?
Before we get to the bonus tips? Yes, you can.
Yeah. One is also talk to your service staff as well, right? Your service staff, works with these products. They're the ones installing these fenders or these baskets on these bikes. Talk to them and make sure they're also, enjoying these products as well. Putting them on. They're not a pain in the butt. They don't take an hour to put on a basket or a fender or adjusting all the fenders. So talk to them as well. And then going back to the assortment for the overall bike category, look at your like if you're doing cargo bikes or niche, like let's say Turn or Urban Arrow, carry those accessories in stock as well. So they'll sell. They might sit on your floor for a little bit longer, but again, it creates that good experience. When the customer comes in and they want to get their bike and fit two kids, you have all the accessories that fit two kids on it, all the pads and seat belts and everything else. It's already there. It's in stock, ready to go. So
that's a good tip too. I think there's a time and a place to get the set of fenders that'll fit 12 different bikes, and there's a time and a place to have the branded accessories. And maybe that's related to the cost of the item. Higher the cost, the more likely it is that person buys, or maybe it's the category of buyers. I think e-bike buyers are a broader subset of the population than the old school pure enthusiast cyclist, and I think they're more likely to buy those branded accessories. So that's a good point. Think about that as well, and when to have these things. And kind of those brands like Urban Arrow, that brings up the bonus tip. And the bonus tip could be a little touchy, but it has to do with the second tier or the non-major brands. And this is coming up a lot because of the proliferation of e-bike brands. So what advice do we want to give people as they think about, or they get tempted by, here's this new brand, nobody's ever heard of it, margins look huge. Is that a good or a bad thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because there's so many of them out there, right? There's so many these e-bike brands that are out there. But one thing to look at is can you even service these bikes in your store? And that speaks a lot to your customers. Like, hey, you can't. If I buy this from you, where do I get it serviced at? Oh, yeah, we don't do it here. Like, what does that mean, right? Like, you can't work on this bike, and so if you can't work on it completely, I would probably shy away from it. And also understand that when it comes to e-commerce side of things, no one's searching for that one random brand out there, right? You're not going to have a lot of success online, even though you want to. You might push it, but no one's searching for it in Google, right? No one's searching for. I don't want to say a name because I don't want to disappoint anybody, but just think of what's being searched for and what people are looking for. Before, Electric and Rad Power weren't that searched for, right? But now they're blown up and everyone's searching for those brands. So those are good brands to have, I would say, if you're looking for maybe that second tier brand, just because they are being searched for. And they are, they do a lot of marketing on their end where it does make sense. But just be careful on those brands that again, they might have a weird wheel size. Their customer service isn't that great. They might oversell their customer service, and you come to find out, oh, it's not that awesome. And we're waiting for this warranty part for 6 months, and the customer's upset. And it's not. And the customer's upset not with the bike brand, but they're upset with you, with the shop, because you're selling this product. You should be behind this product, and now you can't work on it or you can't fix it because this company is no longer available or no longer around. So
and it's not that we want to say avoid all the new brands. We just want to make sure your eyes are wide open. Right. And it is about in-store and online that we started this whole thing talking about that. It's not. We do a lot of e-commerce focus, but we also know that even our largest e-commerce dealer on the Workstand platform is doing far more business in the stores. So all the work we do supports both. So we're just wanting you to be aware of that. And it could be that one of these brand new brands is just right for you. But pay attention to those things David mentioned about, can I service this thing? Will there be somebody there to help me? Because that's part of the reason that they don't have their own store is it's hard to support those things, even in the best situation. So just keep your eyes open about that stuff.
Right.
Awesome. Well, this is helpful. I think these were the topics I wanted to cover, this stuff, and I'm sure you'll uncover more as you do more of this work. So if anybody is interested in the digital advisor services and or just talking to David about, what else have you got? This was good information. What else can you help me with in-store and online? Reach out to him, david.m@workstand.com. You can also email podcast if that's easy to remember, podcast@workstand.com. I get very excited when we get emails, even though they're mostly still spam. I still read them all, and it's fun to get those. And if you have other questions about just marketing in general or websites or everything we do here at Workstand, just give us an email or a call. We're always happy to help. And David, go learn some more stuff that we can share and help, and we'll see you around the Workstand.
I'll see you again. Thanks.